What's up, everybody? My name is Scott Paddock, and today we are going to talk about vibrato. Before we dive in, if you find this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'm still fairly new to these YouTube tutorials, and I'm trying to gain a little bit of traction here. So if you could help me spread the word, I would really appreciate it. Also, if you have any requests for future tutorials, please feel free to leave me a comment in this video. Okay, so let's get started. What is vibrato and why do we use it? Vibrato is the wavy or wah-wah sound that you hear on long notes for the most part. And why do we use it? The reason is it softens the note. It doesn't make it so harsh. If you're holding out a long note with no vibrato on it, it just sounds abrasive. It just kind of sits there and it kind of grinds at you. It's not a pretty sound. When you put that vibrato on it, it just softens the sound. It makes it sound way more melodic. In this video, you will hear me say the word flat a lot when I'm talking about a pitch. And when I'm talking about that, I'm not talking about being in tune, flat or sharp. I'm talking about flat, meaning no vibrato. So it's a flat note, as opposed to a vibrato note. So let's get started. Vibrato is all about tongue movement. What we are trying to do is take a flat or steady airstream that goes like this and turn it into a wavy airstream that goes like this. Okay, so what do we need to do to get our airflow moving in a wavy airstream? It's actually really easy. I've been teaching this concept to my students for years and it always works. You just say a silly word. Once you get the tongue movement down from saying the silly word, you just apply it to the saxophone when the air is going through your saxophone. So the word is doy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy. Silly, right? Say the word doy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy. Say it again and pay really close attention to what your tongue is doing when you say the word doy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy. When you say that word, your tongue is kind of going like this. And that's the exact airstream that we want when the air is going into your saxophone. And now this might be a little weird, but put your finger in your mouth and actually say it. Yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy. Yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy. What you'll notice is when you say the D and the doy, that is the initial tongue of the saxophone when you tongue to start the note. Doy, doy, doy. That D tongues the note. And then the oy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy is a smaller movement, and it's going like this again, and that gets the wavy sound. Doy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy. It's that simple. Vibrato is doy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy. Okay, so now that you know the word, the next step is just putting the saxophone in and saying the word. Doy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy. 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 Again, you probably feel a little stupid doing that, but it works really well. You hit the D of the doy with your tongue. That is the tongue to start the note. And then the oy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy is the vibrato. Oy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy. Oy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy. Now we're going to put the saxophone in our mouth and actually blow air and do that same movement. That is doing doy-yoy-yoy while blowing air on a B. Doy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy. It's that simple. Vibrato is just taking your steady, flat airstream, moving your tongue like this by saying doy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy, and then the air hits your tongue, and then when it goes in the saxophone, it's going like this, so you have vibrato. Now, most of it is done with your tongue. I would say about 85 to 90%. But you'll also notice when I do it, my jaw does move a little bit. My jaw moves some because my tongue is moving so much that my jaw just automatically moves. But most of the movement you'll see is in my throat because my tongue is moving. See that moving just a little bit. Now my lip and jaw moves a little bit, again, because my tongue is moving. But I'm definitely not chewing on the mouthpiece. I'm not going. So this is what vibrato sounds like in slow motion. You're taking that note and you're getting flat with it and then bringing it back up to the pitch. That's what the oy does. When you bring that oy, it brings your tongue down, it brings the pitch down. Doy, oy, 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 oy. The oy brings it down. Slower. And when you're starting out, you might actually sound like that. It might actually be really slow because it takes a little bit of time to get your tongue moving fast. If you get that, that's totally fine. Just gradually try to speed it up. Another Another thing about vibrato is it is moving over top of the time. It's not in time. So you're not playing. You're not playing metered 16th notes or notes that are in time with what you're playing. It's just floating on top of it out of time. When I'm teaching my students, the biggest problem that they usually have is getting that motion big enough. They start doing it, but it sounds more like, which is a little vibrato, but not enough. So I always tell them to do it like they're making fun of it, like they're just overdoing it big time. Like I try to get them to make that sound. Like a big giant vibrato sound. And because they've never done vibrato before, they're not capable of actually making that sound. And they usually move their tongue enough that they actually get a real vibrato. So you want to think about moving your tongue a little bit more than you probably think you should. Second, when you're moving your tongue that much, you also might have a tendency to hit the reed with your tongue. You can hear that right away. So obviously that's not correct. So if you're doing that, you're just moving your tongue up a little bit too high. Keep your tongue lower in your mouth. I definitely recommend looking in a mirror when you're practicing vibrato so you can see what's going on. Look for that small lip movement, but most of the movement is right in here. Now you have the basic concept of vibrato, so here is the best way to practice it. You don't need to do it for long periods of time. Just really concentrate on it for maybe 2 to 3 minutes each practice session. And after you do that for 2 or 3 weeks, it's actually going to just start to work its way into your natural playing. So what I have my students do is just play their scales kind of slow with vibrato on them so they can really pay attention to putting vibrato on the notes. So we're going to do it with the G scale. Or you can just pick random notes. When you're first starting out, it seems like higher notes are easier to do vibrato on because your tongue is already up pretty high, so the movement is easier. When it's down low, it's definitely a little bit harder, especially in the beginning when you're not used to that movement. So now that you know how to do vibrato and how to practice it, where and how do you use it? The where and how gets very specific with the genre. So first we're going to talk about jazz band. So if you're playing a jazz song, you're going to use it on your long notes. So anything that's longer than a half note. This is an A on the alto. Did you hear how it started flat? Then it gradually moves, then it speeds up really fast. That is how you do vibrato in jazz. So in a song, it would sound like this. So you have the note, you establish the note, you gradually speed it up until it gets really fast. Now, obviously, the better you get at vibrato, the more you can shape the note with the vibrato. But in the beginning, just holding it flat, then gradually speeding it up is the way to go. In classical music, the concept for creating vibrato is the exact same. You just move your tongue in the do-yo-yo-yo-yo position, but the function and use of it is completely different. In classical music, the vibrato spins fast all of the time on all the notes. So this is what classical vibrato sounds like in context. It's spinning the entire time. Something else you want to think about when you're practicing it in the beginning is getting your vibrato to sound smooth. We don't want... We want it to sound smooth. Even if we're doing a jazz vibrato or a classical vibrato, We want that motion to be really smooth. We want it to look like this, not like that, all jerky, herky-jerky. We want it not in time, but we want it flowing over top of the notes. And that's pretty much it. That's vibrato. We are taking our flat, harsh-sounding note with no shape to it, and using our tongue, saying the word doy-yoy-yoy-yoy-yoy, to make our airflow go from a flat airstream to a wavy, curvy airstream, and softening up that note. To practice it, you're going to work on it for about 2 or 3 minutes a day, and then after a week or two, gradually start to work it into some of your songs. After a couple weeks of doing that, it's just going to become a natural part of your sound. Thanks for taking the time to check out this video, and if you found it helpful, I would really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends. Thanks a lot.